And welcome to bexbugoutsurvivor. You'll notice a change of format. We are returning to modifying the BERGEN. Maybe the last modification I will do to my BERGEN. And if you've been following the series of modifications the past few months, we'll have done a lot of modifications, including battery pouches, front utilities, side mesh. But this is the final one, transforming the BERGEN into a proper ruck. A lot of people are misconstrued to believe this is already a ruck because soldiers in the field will be used to going on a ruck march and tabbing with their ruck. So it's in people's psyche, therefore the CS95 BERGEN is a rucksack, but it doesn't actually function as a rucksack, despite what you call it. The load lifters on CS95 are very low onto your shoulders. Okay, so when you pull in from this part here onto your shoulders. Now, a ruck, the load lifters are probably level with the top of your ears, or at least should be, somewhere around there. So when you pull down on the straps, it's lifting the pack further up towards the top of your ears. And another bone of contention that doesn't make the CS95 a ruck rather than a backpack it does have is a kidney pad and not a hip belt. And the kidney pad, as it is unmodified, works really well, provided you use it as a kidney pad. I dare say there are some people who are going to say this last modification is totally unnecessary, and it might be for you if you've got a BERGEN that you like and it fits well and it works well. There is no need to do this final modification. So coming from a personal standpoint, the long back CS95 has never worked for me. I have a long back, so a long back should theoretically be okay for me. I have short legs and a 19.5-inch torso, but it still doesn't work. Now, I have had the short back, which works fantastic, and I sold it, and I really regretted selling that. So without this final modification, for me this BERGEN would have been put away in the shed, under the bed, in the attic, and it would have been forgotten about for the next 20-30 years, never used, because it never ever worked for me on a personal level. So I had to do something about it. I turned it into a proper ruck by putting it onto an external frame. It's an alloy frame from a hiking pack from a Cobmaster, so it's not a load bearing frame to put a lot of weight in, so it's never going to ever see 25-30 kilos ever again. However, it will go up to that 25 kilo range and more probably, but I never trek, hike, camp, bug out with anything like 25 kilos. I know a lot of people do. I find the more knowledge you have, the less kit you need, and it's always better to be knowledge based than be kit rich, in my opinion. So I didn't want to put this away in the attic or in the shed under the bed, forgotten about. Instead, I have modified my BERGEN, and for this I am going to need to demonstrate how I'm going to turn it into a proper ruck, external frame, and maintain all the functionality of the CS95. For this I have some slides. For me, this is for a hobby I have, which I never carry more than probably 8 kilos, maybe 12 kilos. So it's a hobby by the river. This is not ever going to be a bug out bag ever again. But like I said, it does have the capability to carry up to around 25 kilos, and I don't even bug out with that much. Okay, let's have a look at the slides. The first slide here, what we're looking at is the difference between a hip belt and a kidney pad. And you can see the kidney pad, which is the one on the left, it doesn't come all the way around your hips. It's just a pad that sits on top of your glutes, your lower back, the nape of your back. The one on the right is a hip belt. You can see it's thicker. It comes all the way around almost to your belly button, and it goes around your hips, not on top of your hips, unlike the one on the left there. See if I can turn the page here. Okay, with this one is a great illustration of what I'm attempting to do with the Bergen. Now on the very left you can see a side view, and then next to that on the right is the back view, and you can see with those yellow lines I've put in, you can see how much I've lifted it up, so it's not resting on my glutes but instead is acting like a proper backpack. And I have that shelf, if we come to the one on the right from the one on the left, you can see the angular shelf where I can stow a sleeping bag or a tent. And then I have the occupational space in the main chamber of the pack still left available. And this is illustrated here, waist versus hips. You can see this is the one on the left, how a Bergen is used, and this is how I want it, and you can see that red line there, how much higher up I can get my actual pack. I just need to change a few things about. I think that is the last of the slides. There is a better example actually of what I'm attempting to do, with the external frame being indicated here in the diagram in red. You can see where that hip belt is, boosting the pack right up, absolutely right up. And it is exactly the same here in comparison to a hiking pack. The one on the right in blue is a Cobmaster. You can see the shelf where I'd usually put a tent, and if I could transfer those dynamics to the CS95, I have what I need. There is kidney pad and hip belt. Those are the differences. The one on the right is how the actual CS95 looks. That is a proper kidney pad. The one on the left is a hip belt. And I think, okay, that's all the slides I have. This is the Recon Molly 2. Substantial shoulder pads, like I said, and a great hip belt, all put onto a Cobmaster vintage H frame. So this is hyper lightweight, and now I've removed all the ribs as well from the Bergen, because I didn't need the ribs that go across the back, because I'm putting it onto a frame. The actual Bergen is light as well. So this is the existing kidney pad. Now along here it's just a pair of scissors, and cut this off, and I'll come back to making it neat a little later. So it's just a case of cutting these buggers off. Remember, I've got one on the left to do, one on the right. It leaves this triangle which is connected to your webbing slide, which is connected to your shoulder harness. There's also no requirement for this triangle, so I might come back to this and neaten it up with some grow grain. And look at this lovely big long loop here of webbing, which I can salvage and put into my salvage box. So while I'm here, I will just cut straight through the shoulder strap. You can see it's so easy to do. Just a case now of removing it all together. Fresh razor. Now if you want to unpick it another way, you can. So this is the shoulder strap, this is the top of the shoulder strap. Here's the casualty evacuation strap, which really I want to keep, but there might be no need. I might transfer it to the frame instead. Okay, I'm blocking the camera in big fat hands, and I'm trying to use my dead hand, but I'm going to slide this razor until I pop every stitch, and this could take some time. There you go. So I didn't lose my buttle there, but I will lose the casualty evacuation strap, and cut out the strap itself. I took the top lid off. I folded it in half by its longest, which is here in its width, and folded it in half inside out. Really important. Bring in the frame we're going to use, which in this case is from a vintage Cobmaster, and just lay it on top of the fabric. Again, inside out, folded in half. And what we need to do is to pen around to give our template, and we're going to stitch where we just drawn that line. Here's one I've already done in the correct colour, which in my case is brown. Then with scissors, about 1/4 of an inch all the way around, I cut. Okay, let's turn it all inside out. And there's a sleeve that will eventually be sewn onto the Bergen, but I need to make sure it does fit the frame. So over it goes, and this is what is going to load bear the weight, which will make the Bergen sit right at the top of this frame. We need to put this sleeve on, and it is a case now of sewing this to the actual Bergen. So there are elements I've got to remove, such as this and this, that can go, and a row of stitching across here where my fingers are. Now I'm not going to be able to show you in any kind of detail the work I'm going to do with the needles, but there is a how-to sewing all guide. Please use that. Now, as like I said, I've no real way of filming how I'm going to sew, but that is a sewing all. That is 150 denier wax thread, Amazon, eBay, online, wherever you want. Nice and cheap. Just a bit of a skill set to learn, and it'll be sewn to the top of the pack. So I just make a little hole that goes through that little hood we made. It comes out and then into the pack itself, and then I catch the stitch on the inside of the Bergen, one thread at a time, until we've gone all the way around. And note how I'm starting every project I do. In the middle of the project, pen a very straight line here as I come around and stitch the first half. I'll just try and put 1 or 2 stitches in for you. Got a line that I'm following, that penned in here through the sleeve we made, and where the existing ribs were in the pack, come inside the pack to catch the needle. Just very gently push this through. There's the needle there. Pull back on the sewing awl. and create a loop with the tail. Reach inside the loop, pull the tail through the loop, pull the sewing all out. By the way, full how-to on the channel. This you'll have already seen if you're subscribed to the channel, and some of you have already got pretty good at using the sewing awl after watching that video, and that is terrific to hear. Hand inside the pack to catch the needle. Just want to make sure it is going through the pack. These stitches are going about 3mm apart, no bigger. You need a lot of stitches to do this. If you don't like a sewing awl, invest in some proper leathercraft needles. You can get them eBay or Amazon, wherever you want. Get proper needles. Don't rush a job, don't give it a time limit. Put it down when you're bored, pick it up when you're not. Okay, it's the following day for me, and it's all complete. I did sew along here from left to right, so the hood is on, and I even put a little hem in. Wasn't required, I just had time. We're going to have a closer look at that in a minute, but what this is for the hobbyist now, so it's not kind of a bug out bag. Everything needs to be in the pack or under it. So a sleeping bag we're going to change up from one to the other, along with some bungee cords, 2 of, both same length, and that will hold the cargo, which is going to be underslung. In this example, I'm choosing all my biggest, heaviest items here for demonstration purposes, including this here, which is a tent that doesn't collapse any smaller than this because it's a hub tent. That's as small as it's going to go. For me, putting that up overnight for my hobby, which is not bushcrafting or anything like that, I have a totally different hobby. That is brilliant. That sleeping bag is brilliant, and I'll usually bring an air pad. Bear with me. As this is a military based channel, we'll put military sleep pad in there as well. Other than tidying it up, it is functional. Now, one of the storage nets, remember, I want to put a water bladder, and that's how I'm going to plan to carry the water. And there you go, the CS95 properly modified as a ruck, like that. I specifically wanted this for a hobby, like I said in the beginning, the hobbyist who doesn't always need a load of bug out equipment, but instead wants a telescope in there, or perhaps a spade, or anything like that, some fishing gear. Use your imagination. For me, that is absolutely ideal. You saw how it was all made, how it was all fitted, how I put it all together. And no longer now do I rely on a kidney pad and then laughable load lifters that only pull level with your shoulders. It's coming from a much higher point round top of my ears here when I use the load lifters. It has to carry up to 25 kilos, which is what this does. How do I know that? I've already been down the river and I've had a few nights out there. This part of the video here is filmed way after all the modifications here were done, and you may have noticed I do have a water bladder on the side here, so I do have capability to carry a fair amount of clean drinking water. That's 2 litres, and I don't have the discomfort of carrying a 2 litre bladder than I did before. Terrible idea, bladders in the CS95 BERGEN, terrible. But now it's on an exo frame, I'm carrying the dynamic weight a lot differently. It's not just around my kidneys. There's nothing wrong with the kidney pad, by the way, of the CS95 if you use it correctly. But now I have a hip belt. So what am I going to use if I've bastardized this? What I use is a different pack, and if you are new to the channel, please go watch the older videos. I have the Saracen. Now the Saracen, 130 litres, I think it's called 100 litres main capacity. I've had 130 using the snow collar, and that's not including the side pockets, which I think are 8 litres each. So I have a massive capability. So whether I grab the Saracen or my Simo, that is a very durable way of bugging out just for 3 days. For 3 days, guys, use a camping pack, because all bug out bags are based around 72 hours. My trekking pack, which is just a camping pack, I have used that on multiple nights, in fact weeks. And I stop off at a shop to resupply the food, by the way, but I only have 1 change clothes in, a tent, a sleeping bag and a pad, and really that's it. Obviously I have some sundries such as a wash kit, first aid, head torch, so on. So to be quite brutally honest with you, and this is going to upset a lot of bug out enthusiasts, my trekking pack more than suffices, so long as I'm not bushwhacking. If I'm on a well-travelled path where it's not going to get torn up by branches. If you want durability, if you plan on bushwhacking, sure, you need a stronger, more durable pack. Don't forget, I've removed that lid, so now I have a cargo carrier on top where my tent goes, or my sleeping bag. I've always wanted to put a Gore-Tex jack on this BERGEN, so it is a load carrier come pack cover. I've always wanted to do that. I've seen some of the lads from the 1980s, they would have been young then, so it shows how old I am, and they would remove that heavy top lid. That top lid, by the way, on CS95 is 600 grams. And they would replace it by cutting out an old Gore-Tex bivvy and making a giant pack cover come load carrier. So because mine doesn't have a top lid, I never intend putting a top lid ever back on that again. So there are other modifications, whether I'll film them or not I don't know, but for me, day down by the river, that is my Bergen. As you can see, it has been put on the Codmaster frame with the Recon Molly 2 system on. I've never known comfort like it. It is absolutely spectacular. It's a shame I haven't got a colour match, but then again, it's not the end of the world. But we are going to return next month with the pack comparison videos. Until then, take care of yourself. I'll see you out there. Happy trails.